So it's the end of yet another week, and here on this channel, that means one thing and one thing only. Every weekend I post an episode of this series we do called Your Take Not Mine, where I turn to you, the viewers, to give me your hottest NBA takes of the week, based on what's going on at the time, and I then choose my favorite submissions, and discuss them in a video. This week, a ton went down in the NBA world, including the standings, continuing to shake up down the stretch with so many teams being close together, more MVP performances shook up that race a little bit, and the March Madness championship game is all set to go down tomorrow night, so of course, we have plenty to discuss. In order to submit your takes, I make a community post on either the day of or the day before the video, similar to the one that you see on your screen now, so if you want a chance to be featured in a future episode, be sure to stay on the lookout for that. Before we start though, I want to thank Prizepix for sponsoring this video. Prizepix is the perfect service for all of us basketball fans here because when you're involved, it makes watching games every night so much more fun and engaging. Basically, it's an application that provides you with lines on all kinds of individual player props, such as points, rebounds, assists, three-pointers made amongst others, and you simply have to choose whether you believe they will record over the set amount in that line or under the set amount in that line. Make your selections, wager however much you want to, and if your picks hit, you can win some big money. For some picks that I'm looking at making for today's slate of games, I'm thinking of going with Darius Garland to score over 23.5 points, Tyler Hero to score over 19.5 points, and Russell Westbrook to dish out over 7.5 assists. If this sounds at all intriguing to you, then go use the link down in the description of the video to sign up today and use promo code REFERENCE to receive a 100% deposit match bonus up to $100. Once again, thank you to Prizepix for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to the topic at hand. The first take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Bam, and he says that Donovan Mitchell might be on the verge of requesting a trade away from the Jazz if they flame out early in the playoffs again this year. Ever since Donovan Mitchell got drafted by the Jazz, he's helped revitalize the franchise back into relevancy alongside Rudy Gobert, but that very duo has had a ton of growing pains as well. Mitchell has emerged as one of the best shooting guards in the NBA and is as explosive of a scorer as they come, but he's definitely not blameless in all of the Jazz shortcomings, although a lot of his frustration can definitely be justified. Rudy Gobert has won the league's Defensive Player of the Year award 3 of the last 4 seasons, yet in the playoffs, Gobert's struggles defensively against small ball lineups have been one of the biggest causes of their downfalls. However, it can also be argued that if players like Mitchell were more bought in on playing better perimeter defense, then Gobert wouldn't have to do so much carrying on that end, so it is both of them at fault here. Against the Clippers last year, they choked away a series to a team that was missing Kawhi Leonard, and the year before that, in the bubble, they choked a 3-1 series lead to the Nuggets in the first round, so now this year, they're down to 5th place in the Western Conference standings, and the writing already seems to be on the wall. The Jazz have choked massive leads in 2 of their last 3 games, and Mitchell himself gave a quote in his post-game interview where he, in reference to their shortcomings down the stretch, said, "It's the same shit. It's the same thing. It's literally the same thing." He's clearly growing tired of the consistent flameouts, and with how much of the load that he carries on the team that, along with a few other factors, could definitely spell an ugly end to his time in Utah. Before this year, there had already been rumors floating around that he and Rudy Gobert don't exactly get along, but winning tends to hide a lot of issues like that, so now that they aren't even winning at the same level that they were over the last few years, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Mitchell does become the next big-name player to request a trade. I'm not really a fan of how many players nowadays are signing max contracts and then trying to get traded within the first few years of that new deal, but that just seems to be the way that things are playing out nowadays, so it absolutely is within the realm of possibility. The next take we'll be discussing comes to us from Alden, and he says that the Phoenix Suns are pretenders this year and will not make it out of the Western Conference. This one's a hot take for sure, and it likely stems from their disappointing loss to the Grizzlies this week in a game where Memphis rested almost all of their best players, so it was pretty shocking to see the team with the best record in the NBA lose to them. But in reality, we just need to take a deep breath and relax with these kind of overreactions. The Suns aren't necessarily built like a traditional contender because they aren't being led by an MVP candidate and superstar, despite the effort by some to force Devin Booker into that conversation, but that's perfectly okay, because they're literally one of the most well-balanced and deep teams going at the moment. Chris Paul's court vision and playmaking ability is still as good as it has ever been, as demonstrated by him leading the league in assists per game. Devin Booker is a lethal scorer that has shown that he can score in bunches in big moments. Mikal Bridges is probably the best 3-and-D player in the NBA, who deserves more recognition for Defensive Player of the Year than he's getting. DeAndre Ayton has been a rock for them inside on both ends of the floor, and the production that they get from their bench players like Cameron Payne, Cameron Johnson, JaVale McGee, Landry Shamet, amongst others, is top-notch. Plus, they literally showed they were good enough for a finals run last year, and this year they seem to be even better. So even though it's not a lock that they'll make it out of the West again, it's pretty foolish to doubt their ability to do so. And finally, the last take we'll be discussing today comes to us from JP, and he says that the Lakers will bounce back next season similar to how the Warriors did this year after their disappointing season last year. I'll start by saying that it's definitely not impossible, but there are some huge differences between the Warriors situation and the Lakers situation. For starters, the Warriors managed to maintain their core of championship caliber players, with Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson still being there from their dynasty days, all while developing a talented group of younger players to produce in bigger roles, such as Jordan Poole, Andrew Wiggins, amongst others. On the flip side, the Lakers, the only young player they have under contract next year they've tried developing is Talen Horton-Tucker, and he just doesn't seem to be anywhere near ready to contribute for a contender yet. The Lakers went all in on older veteran players for their run this year, and it backfired on them hard. And on top of that, they don't even really have any cap space available on quality talent to surround the likes of LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Russell Westbrook next year. So that becomes yet another hurdle they have to climb if they want to get back into contention. Their only real path is getting back on track by finding a team willing to trade for Russell Westbrook while also getting some quality contributors in return. But with how tanked Russell's value is now after the season that he's had, the odds of something like that happening seem to be slim to none. At this point, the Lakers seem stuck, so I have to disagree with the idea that they can quickly turn things around like the Warriors did when the Warriors at least had a foundation to build on. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about the takes we discussed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.